Okay, this is actually the start of the recording. Okay, this presentation is actually going to be a talk about how eye tracking and other user behavior generally impacts design choices. This is planned to be a screencast and a talk that I'm going to record rather than a rigid PowerPoint type presentation. I'll be telling you in just a moment. Given that these BigBlueButton sessions are optional, I will be mostly using resources already linked in this week's lesson plan. We'll also be using markup, and I'll give a little demo of how that works if you like. You will need to resize the tiny screen sharing window that's sitting on top of the presentation space. Just grab the corner and resize it. I tested this out last night and it should work. And if it gets too big, you can click the little button that will pop up that says Fit to Window, and then resize it to make it fit better. The area I have captured is not very large, so it shouldn't take up your entire BigBlueButton workspace. Let me know if you're having problems before we get started. Is everybody okay? Wonderful, good. Okay, I'm going to be giving the talk and then taking questions afterwards so that I can record the QA separately because these files are huge otherwise. The first thing we're looking at is usability.gov articles, newsletter. This is one of the links from this week's lesson. The basic lessons of the F-shape are in how text content is read. What the F-shape tells us about text content is that there needs to either be a good hook, that would be this summary paragraph here, or a summary that will draw interested users to read the rest. These are the people who were just looking at the page. These blue eye tracks, those are the people who actually wanted to read this content. There are a couple of other eye tracking patterns to consider too. It makes more sense if you think of it as layers of how you should design. There's a big picture, what the overall design looks like before the user focuses on it, and the detail, the text or the image. We're going to look at a markup next. Okay, this should look familiar because this particular markup is of the Week 3 course material from P2P University. Making sure the text content has a hook or summary to get readers interested. It's a writer question. If you were in office hours yesterday, you probably remember me discussing this. What we have here is an example of a hook or blurb, just the summary at the top of the page. Most people will read this part or most of it. They'll read enough to decide if this is the content they want, and then they'll read the first sentence. If this looks good, they'll still evaluate each paragraph. Is this the content I want? Is this the content I want? Is this the content I want? And they may actually get their answer by this paragraph. They may not need to continue looking for more information. The problem with this being a content generator writer question is that it can become a breakdown in site design and content meetings. The best example really is that magazine and news sites like Time and BBC put a little summary at the tops of their stories to draw people in or let people prioritize their time. It's worth bringing up with the people responsible for creating text content on any site when you're working with a team of people that a hook or summary is crucial to getting that info into their targeted user. This page has a great visual for how that works. Heat maps show how many eyes have looked at a given spot. The hot spots, these red ones right here, are where everybody looked. The cool spots are where the people who wanted to continue reading looked. Everyone glances over the blurb or hook paragraph, at least the beginning of the first sentence. This can either draw readers in or answer the question, is this what I came here for? Users learn enough to decide if they want to read the rest. It's the same principle as back cover copy or dust jacket flaps in book design. It helps the user prioritize the content. What they're looking for might be elsewhere on your site, so they'll look at the menu, use the search, or go back to the main page to find it. Making it easy for your users to prioritize content and then look for other content if they are in the wrong place on your site is important because your users' time is valuable. As an aside, if the user's time isn't valuable, they're usually not reading a site that you're working on. Those users are usually on joke sites or funny photo sites, like this one, which are usually pretty awful to navigate. That's okay with those typical users because they're there to waste time instead of looking for needed content. This next link is from the lesson plan. 3 design layouts, Gutenberg diagram, Z pattern, and F pattern. Absolutely wonderful article. I recommend you read it in depth, but we're just going to look at the diagrams for now. This is the Gutenberg diagram, and as he points out, it applies to homogeneous text, single images, that sort of thing. This is the basic template since the beginning of the printing press for book page design. And that's really how it applies best. It works when you're thinking of text. Hello, Nada. Oh, she can't hear me. I'm going to pause the recording and chat with Nada. Resuming the recording. Okay. Then there's the Z pattern. I'm going to scroll down now. This applies as soon as things start to get busier visually than a single block of text and some page numbers and maybe a heading. It's the usual scanning pattern of human eyes, at least in countries where we read left to right. It's the layer of the design that the menu, sidebar, and ads usually fit into. I was taught the Z pattern in college. It works well even when applied in its simplest form to infographics like this one. I've used a variation of this a couple of times in my professional work, and it's good for showing people steps, but what it demonstrates is that it leads the eye across and down, and that's just taking advantage of the Z pattern. Okay, back to this one. Then we have the compound Z pattern, which is just the Z pattern stacked, which is what happens when you're reading line to line. And you can use that to your advantage in infographics and layout as well. The golden triangle pattern is again a variation of the Z pattern, but it involves looking back up to the start point. And that leads us into the F pattern, which is how people browse text. This is the initial evaluation. Is this paragraph good? They finish the paragraph. They go down, they evaluate the next paragraph and the next paragraph, and so on. The F pattern is kind of a mix of the two because it's reading and scanning. I think the ubiquitous examples of the F pattern heat map shown over, say, Google search results, which is just blocks of text without a context of a design. It's kind of misleading because it doesn't let people know that what you're looking at is people browsing results for relevance. That's what the F pattern means. And this article at vanseodesign.com, which is linked from this week's lesson plan, is wonderful. Please read it in depth. It's great. Also, the iTools blog posts, they're not very long. Most of this is reference to other articles. Really good information on how to understand what heat maps mean and eye tracking data, etc. Really useful. Maybe a little bit too much, but I would bookmark them for later if you can't really get everything out of them to start with. These are really wonderful. Oh, sorry, bad link. mistyped it. There we go. And anyway, these are really wonderful. I'm about to end this recording because we're running out of time on this. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to use markup. Okay?